Okay, and now it's time for our weekend recap. We're going to kick it off with Dina Thorsland, reigning unified bantamweight champion. Dina Thorsland's latest defense of her WBO and WBC titles against then unbeaten up-and-comer Cetin of Turkey. And as I predicted, as I expected, it would be target practice for Dina. Cetin, for all her best efforts and all her virtues, she's too simple a fighter with too simple an approach for Dina Thorsland. The stylistic matchup pitted the boxer-puncher against the pressure fighter, and I say it all the time. Boxer-punchers have a stylistic advantage over pressure fighters because they can box when they need to and punch when they need to, move when they need to. It's not like what you get with a pure boxer that's always retreating and always giving up real estate, staying on their toes and moving around. No, a boxer-puncher is a lot more balanced, balancing offense with defense. They use a pressure fighter's aggression against them. Like Dina Thorsland used Cetin's aggression against her. Cetin, she's only got one gear, one way of fighting a fight, and that's marching forward, letting punches go. But her punches are a lot wider than Dina's. And even though she's the aggressor, she's the pressure fighter, she's not actually better on the inside than Dina Thorsland or as heavy-handed. Dina's punches mid-range to inside are noticeably shorter and sharper, thus more defensible, where Cerin's are wider and slower, thus easier to counter. Slipping counter, rolling counter, catching counter, you name it. Dina Thorsland put it all on display yesterday and pitched a shutout against the taller, younger, unbeaten fighter. She's got nothing to be ashamed of in suffering her first professional loss to one as accomplished as Dina Thorsland, but as stated, her approach is far too simple. She's still missing all the bells and whistles, and she wasn't ready for this fight. It's too soon. I don't begrudge her ambition, but it's just too soon. She didn't have the right style for the job, the right level of experience, and quite simply, Dina Thorsland is the best in show, the very best at 118 pounds. And if you think you're just going to walk her down throwing punches and bunches like you do everybody else, you've got another thing coming. Visibly distraught once the fight was over, young Cetin reduced to tears. A rude awakening, but in many ways a necessary evil. Now she knows what she needs to work on. She knows what needs to be improved upon. You learn more from defeat than you do from victory, because in victory, you got it in your head you're doing everything right, and that you can't be beat. She got beat yesterday. Got beat like a drum yesterday by Dina Thorsland, who's just as good coming forward as she is moving backwards and moving lateral, creating space to set up counters and give herself room to work, room to throw. She was the aggressor with Yuli Hangluna. She was the defender with Cetin. She's malleable like that, adaptable like that. Boxer punchers often are very good ones, like Dina Thorsland. The earmark of the boxer puncher is they can box when they need to and punch when they need to. So with a Yuli Hangluna who's retreating, you can be the aggressor, whereas with a Cetin that's coming forward, you can be the defender. The boxer-puncher-based style is oftentimes harder to interpret than, say, the outside fighter, the pure boxer. Boxer-puncher-based styles harder to interpret than the pressure fighter, because they borrow properties from both. It's more or less the best of both worlds. The most adaptable of all the base styles, the most malleable. Though, even among boxer punchers, there are grades, there are tiers, different levels of boxer punchers. Some are more limited than others. More limited boxer punchers are your Teofimo Lopez, your Regis Prograrius. That's because they rely on the counters too much. Those two do. They're not as good coming forward and initiating as they are hanging back and countering. When they come forward, they're a lot more vulnerable. But they are boxer punchers. Like Dina's a boxer puncher. Dina Thorsland, the still reigning WBC and WBO Ring Magazine bantamweight champion, one of 3 champions at this weight. The other is Japan's own Miyo Yoshida, who holds the IBF title, and newly crowned WBA champion Shernika Johnson. Dina beats them both. Telling you right now, she would do to Miyo Yoshida what she just did to Cetin, because it's the same thing. Miyo fights the same way, marching forward, throwing combinations. She'd move and counter, move and punch with Miyo Yoshida the same way she did with Cetin. She'd counter her all night. It'd be target practice all over again. With Shernika Johnson, it is a somewhat tougher assignment because Shernika's a boxer puncher. In some ways she is. She can move and punch, she can box, but she can also come forward and apply pressure like she did with Nina Hughes. She can make adjustments. Just not on the same level as Dina Thorsland, I think. I think in terms of boxer punchers, Dina's a higher grade of boxer puncher than Shernika. That would be the most competitive fight between the champions, and I think that Dina is going to target the other champions at this weight, because what else is there left to do but become this division's undisputed champion? If she can get the fights, then I think she can do it.
Congratulations to her on yet another successful defense.
I thought she might stop Cetin due to how many clean counters she's going to land. Credit to Cetin for being able to hang tough and hang in there, but she lost this thing. She lost this thing wide, and that's what I thought would happen.
Dina's one of the best.
The best at 118 pounds and one of the best in the sport. It's what took place in Denmark yesterday. Over to Canada, the Eye of the Tiger / Top Rank show, where
Makhmudov.
Makhmudov returned to action, rebounding off his knockout loss to Agit Kabayel last year.
Stopping Ryalov Mavkinin in, what was it, 2 rounds? The fight didn't last very long, but it was entertaining while it lasted.
Makhmudov knocked this guy down, and he knocked him down hard. I mean, real hard in the first round. Almost completely knocking him out of the ring off a massive right hand that didn't even land clean. It looked like it punched him on the shoulder.
That's how strong Makhmudov is.
Big guy, strong guy. In the second round, he knocked the guy down again, knocked him out off a chopping right hand. But Makhmudov's strength, his power, his punching power was never in question. It's what else does he have? What else can he do?
He's got size, he's got power.
So in a contest that only lasts about 2 rounds and ends in a violent knockout, you can't derive very much from that, least of all against an opponent like this, because this is not a world-level opponent, this is not a world-level contender.
We don't know what holes, if any, Makhmudov would have patched up on the heels of his first professional loss to Agit Kabayel. It seems that Agit found his Achilles heel by going to his midsection, going to his body.
And what deficiencies Makhmudov's offense has, because he does have some, I think when he's trying to set up the right hand off the jab, he falls in too much and doesn't give himself enough room to bring it over because he's stepping in.
Overshooting the distance.
And he could do with a little bit more variety. Develop a left hook, develop a hard uppercut. Because he's so much taller than many of the fighters at this weight, the uppercut could be a money punch for him if he works on it.
You know, he stopped a guy in 2 rounds. You really can't ask for more than that, but as stated, a fight like this doesn't really leave you with much to reflect upon.
He's back in the winner's bracket. Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing him in the ring with a Jogba. I think that's a fight that makes sense. Top Rank can make it.
They're both affiliated with Top Rank. That's why the fight was shown on ESPN+.
Something similar applies to the main event. Mbilli versus Mark Heffron, a fight that lasted all of 40 seconds. 40 seconds into the first round, Christian stops this guy off a vicious body shot. And I said it in my prediction video. This ain't going a distance. This ain't going to last long. Mbilli is best described as a pressure fighter. And a pressure fighter that gets off to a fast start.
It doesn't take him long to do what he does. And he stays in character. He's a mid-range to inside fighter, and he's a volume puncher. That's what you can expect.
And that's what you saw yesterday. 40 seconds into the first round in what was an appetizer. That's the best way to describe the Mark Heffron fight. It's an appetizer to what will be the main course in August when he returns to action against seasoned Ukrainian danger man Sergey Didivianchenko, who in all likelihood will put up a more spirited effort and a better fight than Mark Heffron did yesterday. I envision the aesthetic of a Mbilli versus Didivianchenko fight being similar to what we saw in the Munguia fight when Sergey fought Munguia. Same kind of stylistic matchup. He was against a pressure fighter then. He'll be up against a pressure fighter in August when he faces Mbilli.
Did you think yesterday was kind of pointless?
Not really. I mean, even though the fight didn't last very long, we often talk about how inactive fighters are. That in order to amass a profile and a grassroots following, you need to get out there, you need to get busy, and to do that, well, not every single one of those fights can be against a killer or a world-level opponent.
Mark certainly wasn't.
In order to be a busier fighter, you may have 1 or 2 Mark Heffron fights in between the more challenging and difficult fights. Thus, in spite of yesterday's abrupt end to Mbilli versus Heffron, I don't begrudge Mbilli the activity, because that's what we want to see more of. We want to see more activity from these fighters. They've already got his next fight scheduled.
So that's good.
It's not far away. It's in August. That's a little over 2-3 months from now.
Yeah, but is fighting Sergey Didivianchenko really a big fight?
No, but do you see any of the big names in a hurry to make a big fight with Mbilli? I mean, think about it. David Morrell moved up to light heavyweight. So did David Benavidez. I don't think this guy's on Canelo's radar.
Don't think he's on Munguia's. Not that it matters, because Jaime Munguia just fought.
Don't think he's on Caleb Plant's. Caleb Plant seems to have his heart set on an Edgar Berlanga fight, that if you're in Christian Mbilli's position, the most you can do is keep active wherever you can keep active, with whoever you can keep active with. That's what he's doing, so I can't hold that against him.
You can't complain. What is he supposed to do? Sit around waiting for the phone to ring?
I don't mind a Sergey Didivianchenko fight in this situation, I don't. In a situation where you can't get the big names, the most you can do is stay busy, and that's what he's doing.
Congratulations to him for racking up another highlight reel knockout.
We then come to the highlight fight of this past weekend across the pond, across the Atlantic Ocean, over in the United Kingdom. Josh Taylor and Jack Catterall met for the second time. It took 2 years, to get these guys back in the ring with each other, so let's get right to it. In the first round, I gave the first round to Jack Catterall, who was in control, landed several good backhands, good straight left hands, very fast, and Josh Taylor looked slow and sluggish at the start, looked a step behind. I gave the second round to Josh Taylor, who started coming on and was busier within the round, not necessarily landing cleanly, but he was the aggressor for most of the round. I gave the third round to Josh Taylor, very good exchanges, and once again, Josh is busier in the round. 2 rounds to 1 after 3. 2 rounds to 2 after 4. Tie score. Jack Catterall took the fourth for me off of movement and counterpunching.
Creating space and managing the distance, using his jab, setting up Josh Taylor.
Countering Josh Taylor, who was very much determined to get mid-range to inside on Jack, but you could see that Josh has lost a step. He doesn't have the spring in his step, the pep in his step that he used to.
And that could be for a lot of reasons.
So I had it 2 rounds to 2 after 4, tie score. I had it 3 rounds to 2 after 5, with Jack Catterall up by a point, busy with the jab, and finished the round strong. After 5...
3 rounds to 2 after 5. 4 rounds to 2 after 6.
Gave Jack Catterall the 6th round for landing the cleaner punches, and once again, Josh was looking slow and sluggish and a step behind. 4 rounds to 2 after 6. 4 rounds to 3 after 7. I gave Josh Taylor the 7th round off of great body shots and being very aggressive, growing into the fight.
Gave the 7th round to Josh Taylor, the 8th round to Josh Taylor. 4-4, tie score. Once again,
Josh Taylor seemingly the busier fighter in the 8th round, growing into the fight, backing off Jack Catterall, who seemed to have been losing steam and getting tired. His legs had slowed.
Likely due to those body shots that Josh Taylor landed the round before.
What was noticeable is that even though Josh Taylor has noticeably lost a step, he's still a stronger puncher than Jack Catterall. He still has more power when he can land.
When he did.
Looked like the body shots he was landing in the 7th round were taking effect in the 8th, as Jack Catterall's legs had slowed, and it was noticeable.
It was getting harder for him to get away from Josh.
So I had it tie score, 4 rounds to 4 after 8, 5 rounds to 4 after 9. The 9th round seemed like a swing round to me. You could have given it to Jack. You could have given it to Josh. The exchanges were good, and there was an even effort from both men, but I felt like Josh Taylor nicked it, acknowledging that it's a swing round. You could give it to either guy.
5 rounds to 4, with Taylor up by a point.
After 9, 5 rounds to 5 after 10, with Jack Catterall tying it on my scorecard in the 10th round, landing cleaner punches more often, landing clean counters more often. 5 rounds to 5 after 10, 6 rounds to 5 after 9, where Jack Catterall landed a massive looping left hand that visibly hurt Josh Taylor.
I gave Jack Catterall the 11th round. I gave Jack Catterall the 12th round.
For landing cleaner punches than Josh Taylor, at the end of it, my scorecard, 7 rounds to 5 in favor of Jack Catterall, in what was a competitive fight, but a fight where I think Jack clearly won.
2 things can be true at the same time.
The fight was competitive.
Yes.
Both men had success. They had their moments, but the outcome was clear. I felt that Jack Catterall did more than enough. Had him up by 2 rounds.
He won.
What else got people talking, aside from the fight's crowd-pleasing aesthetic, was Bob Arum's outburst after the judges' scorecards were read, arguing in favor of his fighter, Josh Taylor, who he felt got robbed, who he felt got jobbed.
What?
So perhaps the judges' scorecards may have seemed a little bit too wide in Jack Catterall's favor. I thought about the 9th round and how that looked like a swing round to me, that you could have given it to Jack or you could have given it to Josh. If you give it to Jack, well, that makes it a much wider margin. And some people may not agree with that. It was a competitive fight.
But I think Jack won it pretty clear.
And if by some chance those of you out there feel that maybe Jack got a little bit too much consideration from the judges, you could say the exact same thing about Josh in their initial meeting 2 years ago. I had Josh Taylor losing that fight. Not by much, by a point.
But I had him losing.
Some people had him losing by more than that, and you could definitely make the argument that Josh Taylor got all the consideration from the judges in the first fight that some are now claiming Jack got in the second one. So what's good for the goose is good for the gander.
Fair play.
The highlights for Josh Taylor in this fight was that even though his legs just aren't what they used to be, he still got power. He still got more power than Jack Catterall. Landed some really good body shots.
Grew into the fight.
The highlights for Jack Catterall, I think, are his movement, his jab.
Yeah.
He walked Josh Taylor into a lot of jabs and a lot of backhands as Josh Taylor was trying to come on, and Jack Catterall effectively fought him off and kept him off of him.
Variety of ways. With the counters.
With the combinations, at times fighting out of that Philly shell. As Josh Taylor would try to come in, Jack would lean into him, smother Josh Taylor's work, not giving him room to throw, then push him off.
Create space.
Jack is an all-around solid fighter. No, he doesn't have the kind of speed that jumps out at you, or power, the kind of athleticism
that jumps out at you.
But he's a good solid fighter that's good at a lot of things. Too many for today's Josh Taylor that has so clearly lost a step. That if Josh seems a very different fighter from the fighter that won the World Boxing Super Series, or the fighter that traveled to America and took Jose Ramirez's 2 alphabet titles, if he seems a different fighter now than he was before, it's because he's lost the spring in his step. That was one of Josh Taylor's strong suits, his movement.
It used to be.
At his best, he was a mid-range to inside fighter that would stay on his toes and stay with you the whole time, bouncing in and out of striking distance, throwing sharp hooks and leaping uppercuts. He can't do that the same way that he used to because he's lost a step, and that could be because he partied too hard in between fights, or maybe he stayed at 140 too long.
But his legs aren't what they used to be, and because his legs aren't what they used to be, that makes him more hittable, easier to counter.
In tandem with Jack being a southpaw like Josh is a southpaw, I mean, you see what happened.
Good fight.
It was fun, and it was competitive, but overall, I do think the right man won the fight. Jack won, and I said he would.
And I like being right.